This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Happy Wednesday, everybody, as we welcome you in to Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Sirius XM channel 158. Stormy Buonantony with you live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, alongside today and tomorrow, Grace Remington out there in the Music City. What's going on, my friend? How are you this morning?
Hey, girl. Great to see you again. We're officially 1 week into baseball season, still trying to collect some data, find some patterns here, but still plenty of storylines, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yes, and might as well get started right from the top, although I will say I love the bright red on you. Didn't expect us to look like Christmas in April with me wearing green right next to you, but that's what we've got going on today. That said, you mentioned the baseball. We've got NBA, we've got college hoops, we've got so much to get to over the course of the next 2 hours. So producer Brian Ortega, if you would, fire up the rundown for us.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
We're actually going to start in hoops today once we get through the rundown, because a couple marquee performances last night. Grace, Jokic messed around and got a historic triple-double. His 61 points, the most in NBA history for a player putting together a triple-double, added 10 rebounds, 10 assists. It unfortunately was not enough for the win, however. They fall 140-139 in double OT. Denver does, despite being a 3.5-point home favorite yesterday.
Yeah, and he's now the team, I guess, is 0-4 all time when he's scoring 50 points. That's against the Kings, Suns, Wizards, and T-Wolves. When you're losing to the Wizards, when your best player scores 50 points, where do you go from there? You just got to blow up the roster at that point.
No, it's interesting how that happens, and I feel like we see that a lot of times with teams when a player goes off for whatever reason, they don't reap the rewards that night. Also, for inquiring minds, they call it overtime, not undertime. After 4 quarters, 224 points were scored in a game total that was 230 and a half. They end up with 279 on the day after the double OT. He and Steph, both monster days. We will get to that game, though, in a bit. Also, you mentioned baseball. We've got a loaded MLB slate today. Lots of great pitchers out there on the hill. And we get baseball in our window today. First pitch of the day, Grace, 9:40 Pacific, 12:40 for those of you out there on the East Coast. Reds, Rangers. So we'll be kicking things off. We got 4 games, I believe, over the next 2 hours with us, with games kicking off.
I will never get over that you guys just wake up and watch sports in the 9 o'clock hour. What a nice, and then you get to go to bed early too. You don't have to stay up till midnight or, God forbid, sometimes 2 a.m. during college football season.
Yeah, and back in the day when I didn't work on Sunday mornings, I would wake up, make a bagel, get a mimosa ready, and just start watching NFL pre-games and ball, and we're ready to go. There you go. It's hard to beat. Also hard to beat a couple of the great guests that we have on tap coming up today. We will have VSiN's own Wes Reynolds dive into the Final Four matchups. Of course, Florida and Auburn. We've seen a move to the under in that game, 159.5 right now. Duke up from 4.5 at Open to 5.5 against Houston. Plus, we'll also get Wes's preview of the Valero Texas Open. 2 events, Grace, this week that you are obviously very invested in as well. Loving college hoops, and you are one of our golf bettors here at the network.
Yes. So I got all my golf picks ready. Kind of an interesting field, as a lot of the top players in the world are taking the week off to prep for the Masters, which means there's more room for those long shot guys to win it. So I'm excited to get into that and hear what Wes has too.
Yep, looking forward to Wes, of course, host of Long Shots here. I saw that new episode for this week previewing the Valero and giving some of those early Masters thoughts dropped just this morning, so get that into your subscription box. We also have Terrell Furman, betting pros, NBA analyst, Fast Breaks betting pod. We got a 9-game slate in the association. We talked yesterday on the show about this being kind of silly season with the regular season schedule winding down, teams fighting for playoff positions and those with nothing to play for. 7 of the 9 games tonight, double-digit spreads. So we'll get into all of that, and later on in the show, we will play, as we always do, a game of Why Not Wednesday, looking at a handful of fun, plus money, props, different situations, see if we can talk each other into them. So always fun to do that. But let's start in the NBA. We mentioned off the top the big game from Jokic despite the loss, and with this, immediately, we see the results as well, Grace, of the ESPN NBA MVP straw poll that came out. They do this at a few different points throughout the course of the year. And with that, so I look at the top of the article on ESPN, they tabulate 100 different league insiders to get these votes through. And the top of the article says, in mid-February, the second of ESPN's 3 NBA most valuable player straw polls showed Oklahoma City Thunder guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with a comfortable, if not ironclad, lead over Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic. 6 weeks later, the race is virtually unchanged. That did not stop, however, bettors to react to the performance last night and still bet in on Nikola Jokic at a bigger number. Yesterday, prior to the performance, he was 15-1 on the MVP odds board. This morning, he is 9-1. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander still a massive favorite in the market, a minus 2,000. But it is interesting, despite this straw poll coming out, and we know how accurate they have been. Each of the last 5 seasons, they have elected correctly what the final tabulation ended up being. Last night, we see 77 of the 100 first place votes on SGA, so that is very likely what the result's going to be. But people see a performance like that. They see a big number on Jokic, and they want to fire to see if they can get lucky and get a payout.
Right. I mean, I'm not surprised the odds change after that. Of course, it's a lot of people just reacting to those massive numbers, and the sports books have to move it in order to avoid a bigger liability. But I also think when it comes to awards, that are voted on by, people with various opinions, it's an opinion-based award. Like, recency bias obviously plays a huge role in that. So I don't know if Jokic will actually win. You might have some Jokic fatigue, I guess, because he has won it so many times. But the movement, not surprising at all. And I loved last night. Unfortunately, Russell Westbrook kind of spoiled his big night with that foul at the end there. But someone asked Jokic if he's going to talk to Westbrook after the game. I guess Westbrook had run out of the locker room, and Jokic was just like, why? Why would I talk to him? That's basketball. It's like, I just love like the nonchalant demeanor.
Yeah, the nonchalant, the laissez-faire, whatever you want to call him. He cares more about his horses than he does basketball. Obviously, I say that tongue-in-cheek because he is amazing at what he does, and he obviously loves the sport, but you can tell that he values other things away from work as well. He very much so views the NBA and basketball as his job. And it is one of those things. I love that you mentioned this is an award that's voted on by human beings. And we've seen specifically in the NBA in the past that these human beings do like to give the award to somebody who hasn't won it before. And we saw that with Joel Embiid, who probably should have had a better case the year prior when they did give it to Nikola Jokic, but that's neither here nor there. In this instance, it's like SGA, he's the new young toy. He hasn't won it before. He's on this young and talented, exciting team. I get it from their standpoint, but you cannot look at Nikola Jokic, watch the performance that he put on last night, and not tell me that he's not the best player in the world. Like, it's just... It's an interesting situation, but we'll move on from that because it was also a huge day from Steph Curry, who drops 52 in a 134-125 win over the Grizzlies. First time, by the way, multiple players recorded 50-plus point double-doubles since 1963, the first ever not involving Wilt Chamberlain, if that tells you something historically. 12 triples, 52 points, 10 boards, 8 assists, 5 steals, just 2 turnovers, by the way. And I was looking at the playoff structure right now in the West, and things shifted last night, Grace, where the Warriors and Lakers are currently positioned to face each other in the first round of the playoffs. So the two teams that are getting the most bets and interest right now in the Western Conference could potentially face off with each other. But we're so compact in the West, and even with a handful of games remaining here, who knows how that side is ultimately going to shake out.
Yeah, that could be interesting for people, who have either of those tickets or maybe both. Some pretty easy, I would think, hedging opportunities there. You don't have to wait too long. But last night, Steph Curry, just insane. 11 of 16 by halftime, 8 for 10 from 3 by halftime. And remember, the last time he faced the Grizzlies, he was 0 in a 50-point loss. He said after the game he got a little emotional because he actually passed Jerry West on the NBA all-time scoring list. So he admitted that. What he didn't admit was the result of the last time they played. He claims he forgot about that 50-point loss. I don't know if that's true when players say those types of things. Either way, he got his revenge, and it was a huge game for them as they're both competing for that 5-6 spot in the standings here. T-Wolves, we talked about them too, now tied with the Grizzlies in terms of record, but it looks like the Grizzlies have a few more of the tiebreak opportunities. So either way, that win huge for the Warriors there.
It's fascinating looking at the Western Conference. So right now, yes, your 3-6 would be Denver, Memphis, but Denver is the 3 seed. They're only a half game ahead of the Lakers. Golden State in the 5, only a half game ahead of the Grizzlies, and Timberwolves, Minnesota in the 8, just 1 game ahead of the 8 seed. So I think it's just going to be fascinating to see how all of that shakes out. There obviously are going to be changes as we go, but another important win for the Warriors there. And now with games with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler on the court together, 18-2. I don't know who wants to play this Warriors team where you have Steph and Jimmy, playoff buckets, Butler, all of that, and Draymond Green in the playoffs. Like, it's a dangerous group. I think it really could be fun. Last thing before we have to hit our first break, want to give a little bit of love to the National Hockey League and my dud of a take, by the way, yesterday that I was like, I don't know if I want to bet Ovechkin to score a goal tonight. Well, obviously, he scores another one.
Oh my gosh.
Just camped in front of the net, easy tap in against Boston. They do win that game, by the way, 4-3. He is now 4 away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's records. It's been so fun to watch all of this, Grace.
It has. I don't know why, but somehow 4 goals in 8 games feels a lot less intimidating than 5 goals in 9 games. But we're getting closer. And it looks like, according to the odds, that against the Blue Jackets, so April 12th or April 13th is still where he's projected to break the record, or at least most likely to. I thought, well, we have a little bit of time left, but you are the more hockey savvy better than I am. But I was looking at this assist market, and I was wondering if you had any interest in those. You can pick the player to record an assist on his goal. I would assume you would just go with his line mates or, the guys he plays with on the power play.
Yeah, I mean, and that's 100% the angle on it. I haven't looked at those numbers, though. That would be interesting. But you said it, 4 goals to go. 8 games left. Tonight, second half of a back-to-back against the Canes, a team that he has had some success against. So we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. Coming up next, though, shifting gears to Major League Baseball. We've got a loaded slate today. Get Grace's opinion on some of these pitching matchups, and she's always got props. So we'll see what we have today. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Lots of good baseball on deck today. In fact, we've got 4 getting underway while we're on the air over this 2-hour window, including one in just over 20 minutes as we welcome you back here to VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Money Moves alongside Grace Remington, Stormy Buonantony with you. Reds, Rangers, the first to kick things off. We actually did well on the baseball bets yesterday. And Grace, I've said this to you. I said it to Matt Brown on the air yesterday. I'm in my baseball dabbling phase where I'm just, looking up a few things in the morning, throwing a dart at the board and seeing what we get. But I hit a 2-game over parlay yesterday with the Yankees and Diamondbacks and the A's and Cubs. So we got both of those over. I was very excited. By the way, just thought this was interesting because we talked about the run scoring potential in the A's ballpark that they're playing in now in Sacramento and whether or not that would come to fruition early. We have seen a lot of runs scored in both games so far. Yesterday, the game total went over in the 3rd inning. They end up having a 7-4 final there, which cashed that ticket for Matt Brown yesterday. Just good baseball betting day overall on the show yesterday. But we're already seeing that being adjusted with these games. So total today, 8.5. There are some 9s out there with Jeffrey Springs and Jameson Tyone out there. Just interesting to keep tabs on that the books have already caught up on some of these things. As you went through the slate today, any games that excited you or any reaction from yesterday that stood out to you as you kind of look ahead?
Well, good job on your overs because I had an over yesterday as well, and it did not cash. I had the Nats Blue Jays, and they left a combined 14 men on base. Finished with 8 runs to go under the 8.5. So, I mean, it's close. Those are one of those things I chalk up to luck. You're gonna get lucky, you're gonna get unlucky. But the reason why betting baseball is great is because there are so many opportunities. And if you have a good process and you follow that process all season long, eventually the bad luck doesn't matter and you will profit. So, but yeah, I love day baseball because obviously we have the weather working either for or against us. Typically it's warmer during the middle of the day when the sun out is obviously higher humidity. So that's when you're going to see those higher totals. But again, early in the season, we are in the cold time of the year. So maybe that weather won't really make as much of an impact until late April, probably May. A lot of thunderstorms, though, is what I've seen in at least this first week. I mean, I just had to stay up. I think it was Sunday night for a tornado warning that was going from like Cincinnati all the way through like Kansas and Missouri. So that affected a bunch of ballparks. But that's kind of the time of the year we're in, is where the weather's going to play a huge impact, especially with winds swirling around. So just make sure you're always checking the weather reports.
Yeah, keep that on lock. That reminds me, by the way, I just watched on Netflix the other day the Watch the Twister Caught in the Storm of the big crazy tornado that happened in Joplin, Missouri. Insane. If you haven't seen it, just go out. It's wild. Tornadoes are terrifying. Let's get into the baseball today, though. This first game on deck, I mentioned earlier, Reds, Rangers. The series split following Nathan Eovaldi's 4-hitter yesterday. Rangers shut out the Reds 1-0 in what was MLB's first complete game of the season. He struck out 8, no walks, and 99 pitches. Lone run of the game was the Rangers' Wyatt Langford solo shot early in that one. On the hill today, we've got Jack Leiter and Hunter Green. Green and the Reds, -135 home favorites. Texas +114. Run total sitting 8.5. Anything stand out to you?
I lean the Rangers in this one on the money line. It looks like you can get +125 still. Or let's see. Yeah, you can get +123 at Bally if you have that. So Jack Leiter is interesting. I think this is, so it's kind of hard to really buy into his stats at this point, because he's a young guy with limited experience. He's only made 7 career starts. And you look at his metrics, his velo is up on the 4-seamer, the sinker, the slider, but his called strikes plus whiff rate is down because he's not getting any whiffs on his changeup, which is significant because he tripled the usage of his changeup last time out. His ERA and FIP last season were 180, but the xFIP was 326, which is still a good number, but not as good as those actual numbers. So it says he got a little bit lucky, but again, not much to go off from here. So it's, how much can you really take from this? Either way, the Reds have not seen him. This is the first time any of their hitters will see him. So I do think that gives the pitcher an advantage. Hunter Green, we know how great he is. Now, his stuff plus did drop in 2024, despite his expected ERA also dropping. So I think that's a little bit significant. So that would make me kind of lean toward the over 8.5 as well. In addition to this weather from yesterday to today, the temperature is increasing by 20 degrees. That is a huge difference. So the hitters should be seeing the ball better. So this one, I'll be leaning Rangers and the over.
Okay, let's move down to the next game that's going to get started. Pirates and Rays here. Paul Skeens Day, and the Pirates -115. Rays and Ryan Pepio -105. Low run total as expected with these guys on the hill sitting at 7. Paul Skeens pitching strikeouts prop set at 7.5 strikeouts, and it is juiced at -120 to the over. And I feel like on this kid, that's going to be pretty par for the course for him, and probably something that's just going to grow as the season goes on. But when you broke this one down, anything caught your eye?
So I would have said bet the Rays when they were +107, but it looks like that line has moved. They're now -102. So I don't think there's an edge there anymore. I think you could still bet them on the first 5 +120. That's probably right where it should be. Anytime Paul Skeens is starting, the Pirates are going to be a little bit inflated, especially against Ryan Pepio. Like, he had a great opening day start, 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. And that's because he was debuting a new cutter and a curveball. But here, so again, what people need to remember is the Rays are now playing outdoors in Steinbrenner Field, which I've been to before. Beautiful ballpark across from the Tampa Bay Bucs Stadium in Tampa. And people are calling it Yankee Stadium South because it's the exact same dimensions. But now you're in Florida with the 80 to 90 degrees, high humidity. So the Yankees is already a great home run ballpark. Now just put that on steroids in this heat. So I think like this total of 7, people are going to see the great pitchers and be like, oh yeah, I should smash the under here. Well, not so fast. But so I think that would be my play here, actually, is to go the over now that the Rays money line has moved. Although I'll add this as well. The Rays should have the bullpen advantage here because the Pirates have several relievers who just worked 3 times in a 4-day span. They're just trying to get to Thursday, which is their off day, so they can reset and then move on. So I do like the Rays here and the over.
That game beginning at 1:10 Eastern out there in Tampa. The Yankees, who have been a big story so far to start the season with how many guys in their lineup have the torpedo bats. They drop a game yesterday to Arizona, but with 3 more long balls that now has them setting a record for the most home runs through a team's first 4 games. They've got 17. Got to Corbin Burns early yesterday. It was the bullpen for the Yankees that blew it, allowed a 5-run 8th. Looking to today, Carlos Rodon versus Zach Gallen. The Yankees laying -142. Total for the game 7.5.
Okay, so opening day, remember we bet the under on the Yankees first game and it hit. Carlos Rodon was on the mound then. So do we run it back? All the Yankees, you just mentioned, they've been soaring over their totals. I think this is a good place to try the under again. So Rodon has changed up the usage in his pitching arsenal. He dropped his fastball rate to 26%. He had been throwing it 50% last year. And then he increased the usage on his changeup, slider, and then introduced a new sinker, and he ditched his cutter. The sinker grades well in Stuff Plus, but he actually got a little bit unlucky last time out. So I think we should see an even stronger outing from him. And then Zach Gallen, he is good, but the underlying metrics are actually saying he's not as good as he looks, or at least not as good as he's been over the course of his career. We also have good pitching weather tonight, 48 degrees at first pitch, 11 miles an hour wind blowing in toward home plate. So I like the under 8 in this one.
Okay, good reminder, everybody, by the way, if you want to have your betting funds separated from your day-to-day using money, Edge Boost is the first ever bank account that is built for us as bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions are approved, no usage fees, no minimums. You can earn cashback rewards plus 100% approval for any and all betting deposits. You can sign up today at edgeboost.bet. Use our promo code MONEY when you do and deposit $25. Edge Boost is going to match that deposit for you. Again, edgeboost.bet. Use that code MONEY. Real quickly before we hit this break, obviously, I mentioned the torpedo bats. I thought it was funny. DraftKings has actually filtered home run props by batters they know are using those bats. Do you have a strong opinion one way or another? I feel like a lot of people are very boisterous about this.
I don't think 43 seconds will do it justice for all the thoughts I have. I mean, my biggest opinion, honestly, is that this is all way overblown. I think people are just being a little bit too dramatic. And from a betting standpoint, when you find you have an advantage, you got to play it right away. And as you just said, DraftKings has already separated these home run props out by who's using which bat. So maybe we've missed it, but I'm interested to see how the pitchers actually respond. Are they going to start pitching more toward the end of the bat?
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Stormy, Buonantony, and Grace Remington with you back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Time to talk all things San Antonio. And I'm not just talking about the Final Four, which, yes, we will get to in a moment, but also the Valero Texas Open taking place out there in San Antonio, and help us break it all down. Excited, as always, to welcome in our good friend Wes Reynolds on the Progressive Guest Line, VSiN betting analyst, one of the great hosts as well of the Long Shots podcast here at the network, which that new episode, Wes, dropping this morning. You, Kelly, and Matt Brown dropping some knowledge. How we doing? How are you?
Yeah, is anybody going to San Antone? Is Charlie Pride, and then also George Strait. I don't know. I was debating if Stormy, Grace, and producer Brian Ortega knew who Charlie Pride was, but I know you know who George Strait is, who also did that song. But everybody's going to San Antone in the sports world this weekend.
So fun. Before we get into your picks for the Texas Open, can you give us a course preview and what skills you're looking for in the players this weekend?
Yeah, TPC San Antonio, par 72, about 7,400 yards. This is going to be unlike last week in Houston, where it was drive the hell out of the ball as far as you can. You're not going to, if you miss fairways, there's no jeopardy, and then putt the lights out. And that's what Min-Woo Lee fortunately did for us last week. But this is about approach. This is about your second shots. It is a second shot golf course, so I weighed stroke tee approach in the iron play very heavily. In terms of driving, I don't think it's really biased toward distance or accuracy at all. So good drives gained, I think, is a good thing to learn. And then also sand saves. There are a lot of deep bunkers around the green. I don't usually use a lot of bunker play in any type of modeling, but I think this week it would be beneficial to do so here in San Antonio.
Real quickly, Wes, I do want to let you know, and you've worked with me enough to know, my music, television, movie knowledge is not up to par with anything that you or our guy Brian Ortega can come to the table with. I'm just skating by, trying my best. So I'm always appreciative of you dropping some stuff and giving me things to Google after the show. That's what it's all about. But
I know a lot about nothing, Stormy, basically.
You know a lot about it all, Wes, and that's why we love you. So with that in mind, though, with kind of the layout of things that you weigh as important as you go into the Valero Texas Open, were there any of the shorter shots you liked? Or the show is called Long Shots for a reason. I know you guys have hit some bombs in a good way, but what were you kind of looking through as you analyze the field?
Well, if you look at the trends over the years, this, of course, the last event before the Masters next week, and this is the last chance of Dan's, last chance of getting that field. The winner of this, if he's not already exempt, is going to get that last spot in the Masters. And 9 of the last 12 events played the week before the Masters were won by a player not in the Masters field. So certainly you want to think that all these guys, I think there's 27 players, by the way, in this week's field that are playing in Augusta next week. Certainly if you're teeing it up, you want to win, but this is kind of the tune-up event, and there's more of a sense of urgency for the guys that aren't in the field. Hey, I want to play in Augusta, so you got to win this thing if you want to get in.
So, Wes, when you are capping this tournament, you just laid out the history. If you have a guy who just matches the skill set of the course really well, but it doesn't line up with the history, how much weight are you putting into that?
Well, one of my card, I do have somebody that is playing in the Masters next week that did get in because he's in the World Top 50 rankings. I played Daniel Berger, who I don't think is going to use this as a tune-up event. He's around 30 to 35 to 1 now in the marketplace because this is a guy that hadn't been in the Masters in about 3 years, but he hadn't won in about 4 years because he missed a year and a half due to a back injury from 2022 to early 2024. So he got on the comeback trail, saved his card, actually finishing second at the RSM in the season finale last year, and was second in Phoenix. The guy's got 7 top 25s in his last 9 starts. So there's a sense of urgency, I think, for Daniel Berger. He's really, really close. And I think this could be the week for him. He's won the week before a major before, twice actually before the U.S. Open, 2016, 2017, and back-to-back years, one in Memphis at the FedEx St. Jude Classic when that was a June event. So this is a guy that I think is going to be super focused. This was the one guy that's in the Masters field next week that I did play this week.
Wes Reynolds, co-host of Long Shots, VSiN betting analyst, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. And I know Matt Brown, your colleague on Long Shots, he is very anti-betting Tommy Fleetwood to win anything in America because he hasn't done it and he just can't do it. But he's the second shot on the board. Ludwig Oberg, your favorite, at 12 to 1, followed by Fleetwood there at 14 to 1, Corey Connors 16 to 1, Patrick Cantlay 18 to 1. Are you also of the belief, though, that you can't bet Fleetwood until he's done it?
Yeah, probably. I've won with him on the DP World Tour before, but he hasn't won yet on the PGA Tour. Eventually, it's going to happen, but he's kind of like called Top 20 Tommy for a reason. I think you definitely can use him in a placement market. You mentioned Ludwig, who, of course, the tournament favorite. He's on my Masters card already for next week. So, and he was second, by the way, in his first year as a debutant at the Masters, which is very rare. So I like Ludwig. He'll be one of the guys I have next week. You mentioned Connors. Connors a 2-time winner here. One as a qualifier, as a Monday qualifier in 2020. These are his only 2 wins on the PGA Tour, is right here in San Antonio. And then Jordan Spieth, who's on that first page, he has won here on this course before. So if you're not playing them in outright, I'm probably going to have a couple of them at least in some top 20 positions.
I'm looking over your article now, Wes, and I see one of the longer shots we have in common, and that's Bud Cauley. Obviously, always nice to root for a comeback story, but I do think his skill set matches up really nicely with this course. So what do you like about him at 53 to 1?
Yeah, I like Bud as well. And Bud, of course, played at University of Alabama with his good buddy Justin Thomas, who we'll see at Augusta next week. And Justin Thomas has been saying, my man's close here, former #1 world amateur, and really had kind of stardom written all over him, was a can't-miss prospect. Has not yet won on the PGA Tour because he missed about 3.5 years. He had a car accident in 2018 and then had some other complications from that accident that emerged in 2020. So he didn't play for about 3.5 years, returned last year, kind of, got himself in a little bit back to form. And T6 at the Players, T4 at the Valspar, he's coming in hot. And I think Bud, he would be kind of one of those narrative stories that we see like the week before the Masters of a guy that you're not thinking about and then all of a sudden wins. So he would certainly fit that. So I think Bud's going to play very well.
Wes, one last golf thing before we get to the Final Four. Triple-digit number. Who is your favorite of the field at the highest price?
Victor Perez at 125 to 1, 18th last week, but he was 66 in the first round, 65 on Sunday. Just never really got it going in those middle two rounds. But 18th, 22nd, and 18th in his last 3 events against, I think, better fields than he's going to find in this one. So I think the Frenchman could go very well and be on that first page of the leaderboard on Sunday.
Want to get your thoughts on the Final Four, as Stormy mentioned before we let you go, but Florida, 2.5 point favorite here. Duke, open 4.5, now 5.5. Are you waiting for any more money to come in, any more line movement to make a play here? Or do you see an edge right now?
Well, what I'm probably going to end up being on, and we're not really seeing a lot of movement in the numbers because there's so much money in the market, I'll probably be on the Gators here in some form, even though they're probably fortunate to be here. Everybody was Florida because they were so red hot and dominated the SEC tournament, and they haven't had their best game, I don't think. UConn really took them to the limit. I thought Texas Tech probably should have ended up winning that game and just didn't make anything at the foul line in the final couple minutes. But Florida, if you remember, they played Auburn just once in the regular season and really took them apart. I know they only ended up winning by 9, but they were up 20 plus in that game. Todd Golden, of course, was on Bruce Pearl's staff from 2014 to 2016 down on the Plain. And I think they've got the solution for Auburn again. You can't play that drop coverage on defense against the Gators because they'll carve you up from the outside, and they have so many good shot makers, both their guards and their big guys. So I do like Florida here. And then when I go to Duke and Houston, I don't think we're going to see the matchup we saw in the Sweet 16 last year. If you remember, it was 54-51. Duke with a win. It was 56 possessions, which is astronomically low in a college basketball game. So I don't think we're going to see that quite of a low-scoring game, plus the fact that Jamal Shedd did get hurt in that game in the first half. Shedd's now with the Raptors and never came back. Joseph Tugler was also hurt. I do think we're probably going to get a defensive battle, though. Not 54-51, but Houston, Duke's going to get their offense because they didn't have a Cooper Flagg last year, and they do have Cooper Flagg this year for about at least 2 more games before he's #1 pick in the NBA draft. But I don't disagree with the market here. You're seeing 136.5 on the total. I think probably I'm going to have some piece of the under, maybe first half, because I'll be interested with the shooting backdrops. That's what I'm always interested in when you have these stadiums, and this being in the Alamo Dome, maybe you see some shaky shooting early before they get used to it, and then it picks up in the second half.
Wes, you're awesome as always. Thank you so much for the time today, buddy. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Wes Reynolds, everybody. Follow him on X at Wes Reynolds 1. And like I mentioned, that Long Shots podcast out now, whether it is on YouTube or in the VSiN Long Shots feed. You can find it both ways there, but I really appreciate his time. As far as movement goes, you mentioned it, not a lot on the spread, but we have seen some movement on the Florida Auburn total, down from 161.5 to 159.5. So a little move to the under there. Again, make sure if you haven't already, go to vsin.com. Wes Reynolds has a full write-up right now of the Texas Valero Open available with his best bets, all of the bombs and shots that he is taking, as well as a full course breakdown. When you are a VSiN Pro subscriber, just $9.99 right now to access everything we have at the site. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Oh man, And we're going to have some fun coming up, guys. Put your skills to the test in the Hoops and Horses Pick'em Challenge, brought to you by our friends over at First Bet. You can sign up for free to play at vsin.com/hoopsandhorses and make your picks for Saturday's marquee horse races and basketball matchups. Top pickers are going to receive First Bet vouchers that you can use to bet upcoming races on First Bet, including, of course, the Kentucky Derby coming up Saturday, May 3rd. From the hardwood to the home stretch, play now at vsin.com/hoops and horses.
Question, maybe a stupid one, but I'm just spitballing here.
Can it make you say why not?
That wasn't a stupid question.
It's time for Why Not Wednesday.
I mean, why not?
You know when they say it's so crazy it just might work?
No such thing as a stupid question, especially not in this segment. Get ready, baby. We are locked and loaded. Why Not Wednesday? Grace Remington, Stormy Buonantony, gonna toss back and forth a couple of interesting plus money props, situations in sports as well that could we talk each other into saying why not? And I'm gonna start in the NBA here, Grace, because I got myself learned up this week, something that I didn't know previously.
Right.
Being that there has not been so far in this new, 4-team in each conference play-in tournament event, been a 10 seed that has gone from the play-in to the playoffs. Could you say why not to that happening this year? And I've laid out a couple of teams that are kind of in position to potentially land in that 10 seed. In the West, the Kings, Mavs, Suns. In the East, the Bulls and Heat. But for just in general, first off, could you say why not to a 10 seed making the playoff picture?
Let's say in the West, yes, because it's so competitive.
Oh, fair. That's an interesting, like the Suns at 20-1, I would say probably not, especially with the Kevin Durant of it all going on. Kings plus 295, Mavs plus 650. Very interesting though in the Western Conference. I was actually saying maybe the Bulls in the East at 4-1. If you want to take a little bit of a shot.
This is like a two-part bet because first you're betting on the team to be the 10 seed and not just any seed in the play-in, right? And then you're betting them to win the play-in as well.
Well, this isn't like betting them. No, this bet is just these teams to make the playoffs. But I was just giving you the options of who could potentially be the 10 seed because we don't know that yet. But I was just, I don't know, just taking a shot. So basically, it's just, do you think that a 10 seed can make it in? I just was trying to give people odds. If you wanted to make a wager, Grace, come on.
The Suns have the most difficult strength of schedule left. So that makes sense why their odds are so long. But I think it's a fun idea. Why not?
All right. What do you got first?
All right. I'm going to baseball for some home
Of course you
prop
are.
bets. Yeah. So let's do Alec Boehm for the Phillies against Kyle Freeland of the Rockies to hit a home run, 6-1 odds. So against left-handed pitching, he has an over 40% hard hit rate, a 39% fly ball rate, and a weighted on base average of 347. For context, 320 is league average. Kyle Freeland, for whatever reason, is worse away from home, which is not how it should be for pitchers at Coors Field, right? Coors Field is where pitching careers go to die. So they should be happy when they're pitching at any other ballpark in America. And yet, he is worse away from home. They're playing in Philly today, which is the 5th best park for home runs. So Alec Boehm at 6-1 odds to hit a dinger.
Yeah, and he hasn't gone yard yet, so maybe he's this is the one. It's gonna be the first one of the season. Let's go, Alec. Sure, I'll root you on. I can always say why not. But I'm that person. I'm a gamer. I'm always ready to roll and take a shot on a plus, like what, a 6-1 prop? Why not? How about this one in the women's college basketball tournament? Could you say why not to Paige Beckers going for 30 plus against UCLA in the Final Four? The price sitting plus 230. It's interesting. She didn't hit 30 all regular season, but playoff Paige has been in full force in the tournament, Grace. She dropped 31 against USC to punch their ticket to the Final Four. Career high 40 against Oklahoma. Hard to put much stock in the early tournament games, but had 34 in just 29 minutes against South Dakota State as well. She's shooting just shy of 60% from the field and from three. I think it could be fun to bet on Paige buckets. What do you think? Could you say why not?
Ooh, Paige buckets. I like that. Yeah, playoff Paige buckets. It all works. I was going to say the same thing. It looks like she kind of takes it up another notch in these playoffs. Over 30 points in the last 3 games. I'm looking at her regular season stats over the last few years, too. She's had quite a few 30-point games. It looks like at least 3 each year of her career. So, yeah, I can say why not to Paige buckets.
I think it's interesting. I was just wondering from UCLA's standpoint, what's the approach? Because they let Flau'jae Johnson do whatever she wanted the other day, had a 28 points in that one, but everyone else was kind of held at bay. So is that the approach they have at UConn? Like, okay, Paige, you do your thing. We're going to shut everybody else down. Or do you do the opposite and you kind of like press and double her and make her uncomfortable and force somebody else to beat you? I don't know. But at plus 230, I can definitely say why not. Let's go, Paige. What's next for you?
All right, I got another dinger prop for you. All right, this time we're going to do Gabriel Arias versus Dylan Cease. So this is a specific player versus pitcher matchup. But Arias has gone 4 for 7 with a home run and 2 doubles in his career against Dylan Cease. In those 7 at-bats, he has a 752 weighted on base average against Dylan Cease. And again, I know it's only 7 at-bats, so small sample size, but still, that's just a crazy high number. Meanwhile, Cease struggled in his first start of the season. He gave up a home run, 3 runs total in under 5 innings. These odds are huge. Gabriel Arias to hit a home run plus 950. Can you say why not?
Why not? Yeah. Plus 950. I'll root for you. I'm not going to bet it, but I'm going to root for you, Grace, and that's what it's all about. This is called friendship.
That's what friends are for.
We're a team here. Let's go back to college basketball here. A little Final Four action. Can you say why not? To Houston upsetting Duke coming up on Saturday. Plus 210 on the money line for the Cougars. 2 great defenses. We know Duke has the size advantage, but in the Alamo Dome, Houston, just a 3-hour drive from where they're going to be playing this game. And this Houston team, unlike Cougars teams of the past, in addition to their defense, has the offensive consistency to back them up. Could they have a good day at the right time against Duke? What do you think?
I love it. They have the ability to drag anyone down and grind out a low-scoring game. Obviously, that's always going to benefit the underdog. And, so I can say why not to them making the championship, but let me raise you one with a why not of my own. Houston to win the whole dance at 5-1 odds. Looking at the Eric Haslam projections here, if Houston were to advance to the national championship game and play Auburn, let's say, Houston would be a 3-point favorite. And then against Florida, if the Gators were to advance, Houston would be a 2-point favorite. So, not saying they win those games, but the odds would imply.
Yeah. Numbers wise, I like it. I don't know if I'm actually honestly going to end up with a bet on Houston and Duke, but I think the matchup is really intriguing, and I like exactly what you said about Houston potentially dragging them into the mud. Like, we know Duke is the best team in the country right now, but if you're a little off when Houston's defense is really, really on, what could that look like? And we also, quite frankly, haven't had to see Duke with Cooper Flagg on the court have to play a close game. Obviously, we saw close games in the ACC tournament a little bit more, but the depth won out. But there wasn't Cooper Flagg on the court. When Cooper Flagg's on the court, they're blowing teams out left and right. Houston has a lot of experience in a tight game, and if they were to drag them in, and Houston knows what it's like to be in those kind of late game situation fights, maybe that's advantage Houston. I don't know. Okay, how about this one? We know the stretch that the Dodgers are on here to start the season, 7-0. Could you say why not? To them going on to have the longest win streak to start a season. So far, that record is 13 games. Could they beat it with 14? They close out their series with the Braves today, which would get them 8, 3-game set in Philly, and then a 3-game set against the Nationals.
So, man, I'm fading the Dodgers, and who doesn't love to root against the team that has everything? But looking at the pitcher, so tonight they got Snell. So you know what? All right, fine. They're going to win tonight. Then they have Yamamoto against Jesus Luzardo. Okay, maybe that goes the Dodgers' way as well. But this Saturday game against Philly, Sasaki against Aaron Nola, I think that could be it. That could be the game that ruins the streak here. But, I mean, the Nats are, I think, a little bit better than everyone thinks. They're going to have to play, Trevor Williams, don't like him. Mackenzie Gore, they'll have to play him Tuesday, April 8th. That would be win number 12 at that point. Then they got to face Zach Ervin. So I don't know. I don't think they do, but I do think it's interesting. DraftKings has the last team to lose a regular season game posted. Dodgers -120, Padres -105. Not really something you'd want to bet, but Dodgers are the favorite there.
I was looking at some of the props around the Dodgers. Dodgers to set a single season wins record, which would be over 116, 4-1. Dodgers to have more than 100 wins, -310. Dodgers to have the best record in baseball, $5. Insane. We'll be right back, kicking off hour 2 next on Money Moves.